Hi, good evening, everyone. This is so difficult for me. Probably one of the hardest evenings of my career as a Hay House author. I cast my mind back to about 4.5 years ago when Wayne Dyer discovered my story. For those of you who know my story, my name is Anita Moorjani, and I wrote the book Dying to Be Me, which is about my sojourn in the afterlife. I had written my story on the internet, and somebody had brought it to Wayne's attention. And he was so fascinated with my story that he had Hay House track me down. I didn't even have my full name on the story that was on the internet. But he was so determined to find me because he wanted to know who had that experience. He wanted to know the details. So he had Hay House track me down, and I believe it took them 5 months to find me. And it was a lot of synchronicities that took place. Literally, I received the email from them on the day that I felt ready to share my story in public, because up to that point, I hadn't been ready. I had been hiding behind a pseudonym because I didn't know how my experience would be received. So I received this email from Hay House saying, Wayne Dyer has discovered my story. And I remember crying because I knew who he was. I mean, who doesn't know who Wayne Dyer is? And after being in contact with Hay House and then with Wayne Dyer, that email came to me on my birthday in March of 2011. And over the next few months, Wayne encouraged me to write a book. I signed the book deal with Hay House, and he told me that he would share my story with everyone in the world. That same year, he flew me to Pasadena to speak on the stage. He said, I want you to speak on the stage and share your story with the audience. There were 3,000 people in the audience, and I had never shared my story to such a big audience ever before. It was my first time standing on stage in front of an audience, and he said, go on, share your story. I was nervous. I was shaking. And he said, are you scared? I said, of course I'm scared. It's my first time on stage. And he said, what have you got to be scared about? You've been dead and back. And I actually said to him, dying is easier than speaking on stage. Thank you. But on that day, I remember he was so fascinated, as he's been over the 4 years. He was so fascinated with everything that I experienced in the afterlife. Because I had been on my deathbed from end-stage cancer, and I was in a coma, and the doctors said I wasn't coming out. And I'd experienced all these things of feeling my family and seeing and hearing everything that was happening. And he wanted to know every detail. And I thought that was hard, sharing my story for the first time about the other side. Today is even harder because now Wayne is on the other side. But yet I know that he's here and there and everywhere. And I see his family members. He loved his family so much. He would talk about his children all the time, every chance he get. It feels so surreal that he's gone because I've been speaking at events and he's always there. And he always still pulls me up on stage. And it feels so surreal that even though it's been 3 weeks, I'm still waiting for him to pop out and say, I just had an NDE. And it would be so typical of him to say, I was gone longer than you, so mine's better than yours. I remember the first day that I heard about his passing. Some friends had come over for lunch, and the day started out really well. And a friend of mine, she came over and she brought me this beautiful, huge bouquet of orange flowers. They really were beautiful. Big bouquet of orange flowers. And when she handed them to me, she said to me, "What's with the orange?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, somebody, a deceased person, someone close to you or who you know really well or a family member, said to me, "Get orange. I was about to get the red flowers for you, but this voice just kept saying, no, orange, get the orange ones. So I got the orange ones for you. So what's with the orange?" And I said, "I don't know. I mean, orange is my favorite color, but it's not something that my deceased father or my best friend has ever done in all the years that they've been gone. This is the first time somebody's ever said that." And internally, I thought to myself that, oh God, I hope someone I love hasn't just died or something. Because I had a feeling that this message was not from someone who's been there for a while, but maybe from someone who's just passed. We were sitting down to lunch 2 hours later, and that was when I received the phone call from Maya. And when I saw Maya, it was Maya on the caller ID, I just went, "Hey, Maya." And then I heard her tearful voice say, "It's Wayne." And that's when I knew. And my heart really sank. And then the orange flowers made sense. Because he used to tease me backstage about orange being my favorite color. My phone case, my wallet, my handbags, everything was orange. And if you remember, he always had an orange on the stage. He would throw them at people in the audience after telling his story about the orange. And that whole week, just before he passed, his meme or his quote on his Facebook page every day I kept seeing was the story about him asking the little boy about what would you get if you squeezed an orange. This is how our deceased loved ones communicate with us. Because I remember that when I crossed over, of course I had no body. No physical body. But I also had no voice. And I remember I wanted to tell my family that I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm finally free. I'm free of this physical body that's held me back. I know that's what Wayne would want you to know. If you could hear him now, that's what he would want to tell you. Because that's what I wanted to tell my family. I could feel everything that they were feeling. I could feel their emotions. I could see things beyond the room that my physical body was in. I could see things that related to everybody whose lives I'd touched or who'd touched me. When you think about Wayne, he's touched millions of lives, millions and millions of lives. He can now be there for everybody. He's there for everybody whose life he's touched. He's doing what he's always loved to do in a much bigger way. One thing about Wayne was he was really a passionate teacher. He always wanted people to understand even the most complex concepts. Not just complex concepts, but even concepts that you would find boring. Do you remember the Vasistas Yoga, that thick 800-page book that he would hold up? He didn't ask you to go and read that book. He read it for you. And then he distilled it, and he gave you the lessons. He wanted you to get it. Now, he's able to make sure you get it by being there for everybody. Because he will be sending little messages and signals to everybody who's touched him. And I've already heard so many stories from people, especially from his kids who he loved so much. He's shown himself in so many ways, like appearing in photographs. One of the things that is really important to know is that when I was in the other realm, I realized that time is not linear, not like the way it is here. So we're not restricted. When we are without our bodies, when we die and we're without our bodies, we're not limited to this physical time and space. And that means time, the way we measure it here, is very different. It doesn't apply there. So it means that if you feel 30, 40, 50, 60 years pass here as literally what it feels like 60 years, one moment after the next moment, after the next moment, until you reach 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It doesn't feel like that in that realm. Because when I was in that realm, I could experience past, present, and future as though it was happening around me, then and there, in that present moment. It was like everything was happening in the present moment. So the reason I explain this is that I want you to know that one day, and this is specifically for you, his children, and his wife, it's specifically for all of you, that one day when you cross over, you will be reunited with him again. It doesn't matter how many years pass for us. It'll be like the blink of an eye for the person in the other realm. It doesn't feel like 50 years in the other realm. He will still be there. Because all of time exists simultaneously, you don't have to worry whether he's been reincarnated, because he will wait until you get there. And even if he is reincarnated somewhere else, he will ensure that he is there with you in spirit. People have asked me questions like, do you recognize your loved ones when you cross over? You absolutely do, because even if they don't have their bodies, you actually will see them in the way they last appeared when you last left them. And that the way you see them is for your benefit, because they are without their bodies and they're fulfilling their dharma in a bigger way than ever before. Today, Wayne knows his magnificence. And if we grieve, if we're sad, we're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for our own healing. We're not doing it for him. And because time is not linear over there, when you need his help, when you need to talk to him, he can hear you. I remember when I was in the other realm, I could feel and hear the thoughts of my loved ones. I knew that my husband was actually, he was distraught. He was fearful that I was going to die. And my mother, they were distraught. And I could hear them. I could feel them. I want you to know that he knows when you're communicating with him. So anytime you need to talk to him, you can talk to him. He can hear you. Wayne was larger than life, even in physical life. He had a great sense of humor. I will always remember him for his sense of humor. Every time he saw my husband, who happens to share the same hairstyle as Wayne, by the way, every time he saw my husband, he would say, "Let's put our heads together and make an ass out of ourselves." And even though he said that every time, we still laughed every time. And that's the memory I would like to keep with me about Wayne Dyer, the man who was larger than life in life, but now beyond life, he's going to be even larger, and he's going to be able to do what he loves to do most in an even bigger way. So thank you. And